5 o'clock. Good evening. I'd like to open up the meeting of the North Carver Water District on Monday, August 14th, 2023 at 5 p.m. This meeting is being taped by Area 58 and will be rebroadcasted soon. First on our agenda is update from Small Water System Services. We have 3 people here from them, Kim, Greg, and Steve. Folks.
Do you want to start with what's going on now, and then I'll talk about the survey?
Yeah, so I filled Mike in a little bit when we first showed up, but last night we had an issue with the plant. We had 2 fuses blow in the control panel that shut the trains down, but we were able to catch it in time. Steve and I were on the phone with Suez last night to get the plant back up and running, so didn't cause any issues, but we were thankfully able to get ahead of it and fix it.
Good.
And then on the manganese side of things, we are still making adjustments, trying to bring that manganese below the health advisory.
What's the level now? I know I got I think it was .3.
The last one that I saw was the .354. Whatever we just recently drew, I don't have those levels with me.
Okay,
They might be back at the office.
okay. And we're still looking at about a 3-4 day turnaround from the lab right now? So-
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay,
That's
all
what
right.
it's been, yes.
Okay, good. Then if I may on that, the turnaround, so the turnaround was almost 2 weeks at first, and now we've got it down to a manageable 3 to 4 days, so every 3 to 4 days, we're able to adjust chemicals, which since we've been doing that, that manganese level has been coming down. And to rehash it, if you go too far too quick, correct me if I'm wrong, you make the problem worse the other way. So it is unfortunately a slow process, but it has to be done that way. And I think we've got a pretty good reaction to it now, getting those lab results quicker. So the faster the turnaround, the quicker we can make adjustments. So anyways, that's all I have on that.
Was that all for updates for right now?
How
So,
long do you, excuse me,
sorry.
how long do you think until it's probably dialed in? I mean, looking at where you started and then where you're at now?
Month, maybe? I'd say a month.
Okay.
and it's variable, it does depend on what's coming out of the ground.
Right.
Okay. Anything else on the water report?
So, did you want me to review the survey? Was that part of the agenda? I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it is actually.
Okay.
Let's talk about, if we could, about the outage we had due to the pump shutting down,
The most recent one?
the most recent.
The one last week.
Yeah, the one, yeah, last week,
Yeah.
last month, yeah, it was a week ago today, right? Yeah, I think,
Mhm.
yeah. Just so people are aware,
So we received a call in our office from one of the businesses in town, MBO Precast, that they did not have any water. And following our protocols, the first phone call we made was to Steve as the field operations manager, and they stopped what they were doing and headed down here to investigate what was going on in the plant. I'm gonna let you guys elaborate a little more about what you found when you got there.
Yeah, so basically when we got here, the membranes were in standby mode, with the tank being critically low, with no real descriptive reason why they were in standby. The alarms that were active on our panel did not really paint a clear picture as to why they were in standby. We were able to reset them though fairly quickly and get water filling back the atmospheric tank before we restored pressure to the town.
and I know you guys told me, but just so folks are aware, that never sent an alarm to you, and the system by its design wouldn't do that. Is that correct?
Correct, because the trains were in standby, not in shutdown.
Right.
That's, yeah, so.
Yeah, it didn't identify the problem because to it, there was not a problem. They were in
Right.
standby.
Right,
Yeah, that mode's kind of, the tanks are full, everything's ready,
Yeah,
and it
that's-
goes into standby, waiting for it to say, all right, I need more water,
Correct.
and it just stayed there. Okay.
the reason why I brought that up is there was a lot of people, rightfully so, were upset and are upset. But the way the system is built and the way the control package through the computer is designed, it doesn't send an alarm signal out for every single eventuality. And I equate it to this: if you're driving down the road and everything is fine in your car, and you hit your brakes 5 times, and then that 6th time, a brake line breaks, you had no warning. It doesn't always give us a warning. What we've done to correct this problem, though, in the future, is we're talking to small water, we put in a separate, we've ordered a separate alarm system that has nothing to do with the controls of the plant. And what's the name of the?
Emission.
A mission
Mission
alarm.
control.
Yep,
So, in the future, once this arrives and it's installed, it will send an alarm when the clear tank gets to whatever level we decide, 50, 60%, which that alarm will always work because it's not tied in with the control package, and it gives the operators time to, like, okay, we got a problem down here. The water level is down to 50%, which is 6-8 hours,
Yeah,
yeah,
roughly.
roughly, maybe a little more.
that we can react to it before it gets to a level where it did this past Monday, which shuts the plant down so it doesn't burn the pumps up. Correct? Am I
Yeah.
correct? Okay, so,
Yeah, there's a low cutout in the tank that's there to protect the
Yeah,
pumps. That way
but
they
the
don't-
alarm doesn't sound anywhere. There's no alarm. Now we're gonna have an alarm so that we don't get to that point should something like this occur again. So, and that's in the works. I signed the work order for that. Small Water's ordered it, so when it arrives, they'll install it, and we'll be up and running with that, so.
Mike, I
But-
don't know, she had a question, I don't know if you want.
Yes,
Question?
Yeah.
You mentioned the
Sorry, can you have your
membranes.
name and address?
Oh, Tara Stone, 10 Lincolnham Drive. One of the very upset residents that has been back on town water for 2 months, and we've had 4 outages. I still have brown tainted water. I'm sorry, 3 outages. I still have brown tainted water. The toilets are stained, my sinks are stained, my tubs are stained. Again. Look, I came to this meeting last month, and you guys knew about the manganese levels, and yet you did not let that be known, and you waited until the 30 days, and then that communication came out via email, which not everyone, by the way, gets the emails.
I'm gonna address that,
There was
okay?
nothing that was even sent out. But that all aside, we were unbillable for a year. I'm gonna restate this. We had no problems. So there's something going on at the plant, the way that it's run, whatever. When we had the problem last year, we were told that this was monitored 24/7. Now, when I called the small water systems number last week, whoever answered the phone had no idea that there was no water.
Because there was no alarm.
Well, you're saying you're notified by a business. When I called, whoever I spoke to, they're like, where are you calling from? Like, we've gotten no calls.
But you called your on-call phone, and if we don't have an alarm, then how do we know you have no water unless we get a phone call?
Okay, so the membranes that you mentioned, these are the new membranes that were
Mhm.
installed. So are they failing already?
No,
No, there's nothing to do with the
So it
membranes.
has nothing to do with the membranes? Okay,
no,
thank you.
no, they're working. And please, step in, correct me If and when
I'll
I
say it quick and easy if you
Oh,
want.
yeah, yeah,
or whatever.
please.
So the water comes in, you have to add chemical for the membrane to take it out. But you can't put in too much chemical, and you can't, if you put in too little, so you have to dial that chemical in for the membrane to do its full
Yeah,
job.
I understand.
Yep, that's all that.
Where a fault lies is that we were too slow. We take water samples, we send it to the lab. The lab was slow getting the results back, and you can't adjust the chemicals until you have those results to see what you're gonna do. That's the one, we were able to correct that. Doesn't help that first 4 weeks, but we are on track with that.
I feel like there should be a regular update to everyone. I mean, no, I'm no water expert, I'm no chemical, mineral expert. You know, the little bit that I've read about this in the fact sheets, you know, it's harmful to infants and toddlers. You know how many infants and toddlers are going to these restaurants and these businesses and drinking their water? Why isn't this stated on their doors? Why aren't there notices to let people know what's going on? That I don't understand.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if one of these folks do. I'm
I
not trying to
can-
push it
I can
off.
speak to that. So the public notice that was issued that was not timely, and again, I apologize for that. The public notice that was issued stated that the manganese levels were above the health advisory level. That public notice stays in place until the levels come back down. So that was given to the commissioners, posted on the town's website, the public notice itself. So that is still in effect until we can get the levels below the .3 health advisory level.
But I guess that doesn't go back, and I guess this is probably where it's a little unclear in the way the law's written. If I'm someone that has someone in a state that shouldn't be consuming this much water, but you have businesses in town that are using this water, and people are consuming this
That's up to the
water.
business to post that. We can't control them and tell them what to post. They need to post that on their own. I would take that up with the business owners.
The Board of Health did go out and notify every business in town, restaurants, Shaw's, I believe, I'm not 100%, there's two daycare centers. They were all notified. And like Steve said, what they do with that,
I feel like nothing's gonna change until the business owners make more noise. I mean, I'm just one resident. And you said last month, there was roughly, what, 113 customers? Where the hell is everybody else? You know, and anyone I see that is on this, like, I hear it all, and I hear, and they say, well, the town's not gonna do anything, and they just kind of turn the other way. And then this is separate from the town. So, you know, several of us have spoken to the DEP,
Yep.
and they have told us that whenever the water goes down, whenever there's a notice, we should call them. They did not have record of the July 3rd instance, so I think that was being addressed.
I think they did. They did,
Okay, I'm
but,
just going by what.
no, I understand, and I'm not trying to, I understand what you're saying, because I wear I am also a water customer.
Right, I
Okay.
understand that.
So, but I'm not here as a water customer. So that said, let's move from the July 3rd incident, let's go to the one we just had a week ago, Monday. Eric and I arrived at the plant before Swiss. That's not indicative that they didn't do their job. They were not anywhere near us. I was literally 5 minutes away. They arrived promptly, and one of the first things they did was talk to DEP. So DEP in this instance was notified right away by phone call?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, DEP's in the loop, but this is where it's like, it's governance. So if you as a citizen or myself calls DEP, God knows who you're gonna speak to. Just like if you call Small Water, they have a number of employees. You're not always getting,
We have a couple of contacts that we're told to funnel through. But that being aside, you know, the question has been raised, who can help fix all these issues? And they're saying it's on the water commissioner.
and it is, and this is, so I'm gonna waylay from the water operator's report. This is what we're working on. Okay. Right now, we are trying to get ARPA funds, okay, to do two things that is not germane to this, but in a long, roundabout way it is. We're trying to get help from ARPA funds to repay the debt to Middleborough, which was never figured into our budget this past year. That was a clerical error, my mistake. Weren't thinking that. I was thinking paying for the membranes that cost $236,000, plus another $50,000 and other things we did at the plant, which unfortunately, right now, sitting here, does not seem like we did anything, but we did. I can assure you that. The other thing is a water meter that the town was supposed to have put in between Middleborough and Carver over 12 years ago. They never did it. We're doing that now. I'm looking for ARPA funds. I'm getting pushback from the select board that doesn't want to do it because like, well, you got a ton of money. I was just telling the folks at Swiss, the only thing, two things that are gonna start to correct this problem is either a series of booster pumps out in the street or a water tower, okay? The money that North Carver Water has in reserve to start anything, we will blow through that just doing the engineering studies, never mind getting it to contract and being done. Then we will be out of money. Without money, we can't do a thing.
And the town won't.
The town will not do a thing, and that is why I ran for this position, because I am just as angry as you are about the whole thing. I'm not angry at Swiss, I'm not angry at individual people in the town. The town has turned their back on this from day one.
So who do we raise it to get this fixed?
You go to the select board meeting and you demand that you want them to help. Because their position is, I'm not tied into it, so therefore I don't care about it, okay? My position is, as a human, is that we have about 100 residential customers. I don't know the formula used. I think they consider 3 per household, roughly. I think it's a little, would say more. I have 2 in my house, but right next door, there's like 8. Across the street, there's 4. That's across the street the other way, there's 4. So I would say that, I know we gotta use the numbers they use, but I would say it's 4 or 5 per household. So call it 500 people. You got 500 residents in town,
Nobody's here.
okay, and no one's here, okay? I get complaints and emails and phone calls every time there's an issue from this business owner, that business demand. Where are they? I've asked them to turn in receipts for bottled water, filters.
So that was my other question, is we've been buying bottled water.
Yeah.
Because it's tainted. It's light brown, it's yellow, some days it's clear, some days it's cloudy. It's not consistent. But I can tell you that the water that sits in the toilet bowl, I am again scrubbing. We talked about this last time that I was here last month. It got better, it cleared up. I'm like, great, I'm finally not scrubbing the toilet every day. Now I am again.
If I can, and again, I'd like, if Swiss would like to input in this, every time, goes back.
That a change is made.
Well, not just the chemical change, but we were down for a couple of hours, so we have no pressure, okay? Once you come back up and running, you start moving water and sediment.
We're gonna explode in the house.
But you start moving crud through the system again, and I think I had told one of these gentlemen that prior to this, my water was getting clearer and more consistently clear. And we now are back to
Yes.
a month ago because of that outage and the.
And
so-
when these things happen, if the system put out enough pressure, you would notice it for about a half hour, but like especially your road, you're at the end of the line and you're a dead end. So if we could open the hydrant at the end and clean it out, you would notice it for a half hour and then it would be gone. But the system doesn't have the pressure to ever flush. And that's another issue, with the system.
That's back to booster pumps and/or a water tower. And right now, let me back up.
Unless
And
a business goes back there that was supposed to, it's not gonna be, the
Correct.
town's not gonna pay for a water tower.
Well, with pressure, maybe they will. I mean, because why would a business want to?
Well, that's why I feel like the businesses need to, you know, maybe I need to start knocking on some doors, I don't know.
That was,
I'm here because not only am I concerned, I mean, I don't know if you know the history, but my street, you know, we had contaminated water, that's why we have town water now. So, I mean, the towns, they're just failing us all over again.
And that's why your area is too, right?
correct. That's why I tied in, yeah. So let me back up. Virtually every residential property that I'm aware of, and what info I could gain or gather, from day one, the inception of North Carver having town water in one fashion or another was based on the 2 landfills in North Carver contaminating private wells. The one behind you and I, the North Carver landfill, and the other one, I think they call it Ravenbrook. Ravenbrook, which is on the Middleborough-Carver town line by the motocross track.
Oh, yeah,
That's why they originally brought water, because those properties were contaminated, so they brought Middleborough water in. Middleborough was our water department until about 2010. Then RDA stepped in with this development along Route 44, and part of that RDA plan was to have a quote-unquote redevelopment district, including a water district. Here comes the North Carver Water District. That's how it was created.
For the horse is what they basically did.
Thank you, yes. That is the history, and I only bring that up because it is frustrating that you can't put that genie back in the bottle, and that is why when we have issues like this, and we look to the town for help, it's like, not our problem, it's the district's problem. I get answers for this problem like, well, are you charging enough? Well, how do you charge people for water they're not happy with, at pressure they're not happy with, and you're already paying per measured amount, whether it's cubic foot or gallon, higher than anyone else around us? How do you
We do
justify
have the
that?
highest rate.
Yes, we do.
We do.
When you not,
But now we can't consume the water. So we can't cook with the water, we can't drink the water.
yeah, so,
And the water doesn't look so good.
but if I may, back to the business on the agenda, one of the items on our agenda is to discuss reimbursements and short-term solution to what you're going through now as far as having to buy bottled water and stuff.
But then you're saying we don't have much money to do anything, so then,
Well,
and it just, it adds up over time, right?
right, but
I feel like it's just a
but there is, we have a short term to help you, the customer, okay, that's on the commissioners. We have fixes as we have new problems, like alarms not there, so we install a new one. And those are things we can and will continue to do. It's the long-term stuff that we just don't have the funds for this moment. But come next year at town meeting, I will be asking to basically take every bit of money we have in reserve and come up with a plan, and if the town approves it, isn't that funny now? We gotta go ask the town that wants nothing to do with this system, permission to spend our money.
And that's hard to do because most people in this town are on well water. They're not
Thank you.
on-
But all we can do is try, so that is what I am looking to do as one of the water commissioners, is to take that money, or a good chunk of it, and start the process of moving forward into putting in a water tank, a water tower, a booster pump or pumps, something to alleviate some of these issues that have been plaguing this system since its inception. And I don't know what else to do. I mean,
I feel like there needs to be a backup plan to that. I've lived in this town long enough, and people don't want to spend money on things that don't affect them.
yes,
I think it would be very hard pressed that that would get passed. I would like to think that it would,
all we can do is try.
but people post online, you know, like, why you have no water? People are like, we have well water. Like, they have no idea.
Yep.
Some people, I have a neighbor who had no idea that she purchased a house that had a landfill in the backyard. I mean, I don't know, unless you know the history of the town and where you are.
So, all we can do is try.
No, I understand that, I feel like there needs to be some contingency plan. work.
I will bring it up, I wasn't going
And
to, I
I'm
know,
happy to do anything to help and to bring this to whoever it is, and I know that, I have neighbors that tell me that they've talked to, some members of the select board, and nothing seems to happen, and that's why I think everyone's getting frustrated. We're just trying to figure out, how do we fix this, so that we're not dealing with this week after week?
I know one of the solutions that folks in town come up with is, well, why do we can't just turn the Middleborough water system on? Can't do that. Say, physically you can, but you can't just,
Have another town save us?
well, no, because there's a process. I mean, one, you gotta get your own ducks in a row. Two, you gotta get permission. Three, you gotta figure out how it's gonna work. Four, we were already down that road in Carver, excuse my French, screwed Middleborough every which way but loose because they weren't paying their bills. And we're back to, we've gotta pay to have this water meter put in that they were asking for 10, 12 years ago.
What does this water meter do?
What it does is, at the town line, there's a valve. If you open the valve, Middleborough can feed us water, and vice versa. Normally, it is shut. It's a cross connection between the towns. What the meter does is it accurately tells the town of Middleborough how much water is being fed to
Oh,
Carver.
okay.
There is no meter, so everything is a guesstimate. Follow me? And
I do.
Middleborough, no, I'm not talking about the last year, but prior, Middleborough would send a bill.
Oh, we didn't get bills for almost a year and a half. I remember the issue. I mean, I've lived up there since 2001. Like I said, I mean,
Yep,
I just need to really look in here. And I understand, and I really appreciate that you're taking this on, because I wouldn't want the headache that you're dealing with. I mean, we want clean water. We want clean water to consume at the end of the day. We want water that's not going to, go out every other week.
all I can say is we are collectively working on it. And it's not the answer you want, but I don't have another answer for you. I mean, we all wished we could never have an alarm, never have a pump go out, never have anything happen up the plant, the fuse blow.
We understand that problems happen. I think it's just because we came off of a year of having no problems, and literally within 2 months, it's been nothing but problems. It's just, we're frustrated,
Yep.
so please don't take my,
No, it's business and it's legitimate complaints, and I understand that. When I get a little frustrated, it's not with you, it's that the town has let this happen for well over a decade.
well, that's what's,
That is the frustrating part, that unless you're living it, the town does not care. That's my take on it. There are some people that do. I shouldn't say that. There are some people that work in town in this building that are very dedicated to doing the day-to-day stuff to help us get with managing it. There are some good folks, but yeah, by and large, it's difficult,
there has been some improvements. I mean, the fact that everybody now knows who to call is great for us, maybe not so much for you guys, but it's good that someone's actually, we have phone numbers, we can call, people are answering phones, and that somebody gets down there.
Speaking of which, do not call the phone number that if you Google North Carver Water District and it comes up 80 Pleasant Street, Plimpton, Mass, and there's a 781 exchange phone. Do not call that phone number because you're calling a landline phone that does not go to anybody.
Well, we got a letter in the mail
Yep,
that gave us phone numbers.
You
So
should
those
have
are the
Swiss
numbers
numbers on that.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are the numbers
Yeah.
that we're using.
yeah. Well, my point for that is, one of the many things we've been working with, the commissioners, some folks at Town Hall, and Swiss, is to make that part of the process better. You mentioned email. We cannot help it if people give us an email and choose to never
Oh,
open an email.
I understand.
Okay?
mean,
I am that guy. I'm a Luddite, okay? But if you really are concerned about your water, open your darn emails. The other thing is phone numbers. And the reason why I bring it up is people were using a phone number that had nothing to do with these issues. It was a phone number generated, because every place has to have a phone number assigned to it. So it was, if you, like I said, if you Google the North Carver Water District, it doesn't come under Town of Carver, it's just North Carver Water District. And it's a site that has 80 Pleasant Street, Plimpton, Mass. There's a phone number, it's a 781 exchange. And what it is, it's a landline that goes to the plant. That phone is there so that if we're at the plant and we don't have cell service, they can call their office, they can call a vendor, they can call Suez, they can call me. We found that a lot of people, when I say this, people were complaining that they were calling and not getting through to anybody. It's because they were calling that number. So we took that off the website today, and we've put one of Swiss's business numbers on it, so that they
Are
get
these
some.
numbers different than what's on the piece of paper that you sent to us?
Yes, it's a whole different thing, but that's
No,
what
no,
people.
no.
Those numbers are good.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
On their side, yeah.
Can I just suggest that when the bills go out, there should be stuffers in there? Maybe just a reminder, these are the phone numbers to call, here's the protocol, and maybe even, here's a status on the water, here's like,
We are putting that in the next one. This last bill went out right about with that, this outage, so we're gonna update the calling information, the email information, and we can do that too, about what the status is, our latest reading of the manganese level. One thing I will say, as soon as we are below that 0.3 level, we will send out town-wide, excuse me, or customer-wide, an email. Again,
so we assume the levels haven't gone down enough to warrant a new communication, basically.
say again, please?
We just assume that the numbers have not moved to the point where you can let us know, hey, the water's good now.
Correct.
It's not at that level. It is coming down steadily, but it's not at that below 0.3 threshold required that then we can lift the warning.
public
The
notice,
public
correct.
notice. So the public notice has to stay, so that's not changed.
So how harmful is this if you have an average teenager, let's just say you drink a gallon of water a day? Like, how harmful is these levels?
The EPA has to issue health advisory limits for these secondary contaminants. They are unregulated by the state of Massachusetts, but the EPA does have suggested numbers that you stay below because some studies have been done that show negative effects. So one of the posts that went out, one of the informational packets that went out, gave a date, an age range. So for children under a year, it shouldn't be more than 10 days that they're drinking this water, preparing formula, things like that. It can have some neurological effects. It can have some heavy metal poisoning in older populations, susceptible populations. But because there have not been enough studies done yet with enough proof, that's why it's still an unregulated contaminant by the state.
So you just shouldn't drink the water. The way that we're not drinking the water.
Yes, it is suggested, and it's also suggested to talk to your healthcare provider, knowing that there is elevated manganese levels in your water, what the danger is to you as a person with any comorbidities that you might have.
Okay, thank you, that helps.
It's a lot, you know. And it's just, it stinks.
Well, I'm debating getting a 5-gallon, jug of filtered water and.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, my wife and I drink bottled water right now as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, I'm done.
Okay, well, thank you for your input, and thank you for coming again this month. But like I said, it's not just the select board, but I'd start, maybe think about going to one of their meetings and use one of those 3-minute sessions and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I absolutely will.
You know, because, like I said, I'm gonna use this as a soapbox. We're putting in an application for ARPA funds. There's some pushback in town, in this building, and their position is, well, they've got money. Well, good. Like I said, I can spend that money like that, just doing an engineering study to start moving forward to fix these problems that have been kicked down the road for the last 12-plus years.
Now, ARPA funds, does that have to go to town vote? Or is
No,
that something that-
it's controlled by the select board. So what it is ARPA funds is money, they're monies that was generated from the federal government for COVID relief. So it has to pertain to things that a pandemic or a natural disaster or a man-made disaster could affect. So on the top of the list, or one of the things on the top of the list that qualifies throughout governance, whatever it may be, large and small, that qualify is water and sewage infrastructure. Then there's a lot of line items under that. Is it upgrades to your system, lead mediation, so if you got lead pipes, underground water infrastructure, underground sewage infrastructure, the plant itself, all these things are qualifiers. So we have a legitimate need and a legitimate reason for requesting these ARPA funds. So it goes from the federal government to the state gives it to the county, then Plymouth County allocates it to the towns. Your select boards, or whatever form of government each community has, whether it might be a mayoral system or whatever, but they're the ones that control it. So like being a district, we have no say. We can do a request, but we have no say if we get the funds. It's your select board. And we are getting pushback from them, and I'm going to be at their meeting tomorrow about it because we, quote unquote, have money. It's like, great, we have money, but we have to spend that money on other things. We didn't anticipate having to pay Middleborough. Let me back up. They graciously sold us water. We did not plan in our budgeting on having to buy water for a year.
Sure.
And we didn't, I shouldn't say I did not think to put it as a line item for this fiscal year's budget, because at the time, we still didn't even know what the amount of water we bought was, or what the final figure that we owed was gonna be. That was just figured out, well, it was after the town meeting and budgets were all done.
Well, we're very lucky that Middleborough graciously took us back.
Yes, we are.
And if we run into another problem, will they be as gracious? We hope that.
I would hope so. I will say, working with the town of Middleborough, coming up with the number that we owe them, it was very pleasant working with them. They were perfect gentlemen, all the guys we worked with. Their position was, we are not going to punish anybody. We want to get paid. We had 2 meetings, and in both those meetings, we worked out the amount that was fair to both sides. Them recouping the money they had to generate water to sell us, and us, it was a fair amount to charge us. So that all worked out well. So I would say that if we ran into a bind, I can't speak for Middleborough, but my gut feeling is they would be willing to work with us again to do this. But we have to pay that bill. ARPA funds would cover it. And we
So
also,
there's no money to pay that right now?
we would have to have a special town meeting to get the funds to do that, or we can go the road of ARPA funds. The bill is gonna get paid, no matter what. It will get paid. It's just a matter of what mechanism is used to do it.
Well, we were billed for water during that year, so I would think that,
Well, that's one of the things the select board is questioning. So you were billed for water because you consumed it. Our bills didn't go away. What I mean, the North Carver Water District, we still paid almost $30,000 in an insurance policy. We paid Swiss to manage the system. They still had to manage it. They still had to read meters. They did installs for water meters at private residents and businesses. They did all the work they normally do. Believe it or not, because of the way the system is set up on energy credits and what we pay for electricity, our electric bill didn't really go down even though the plant was idle. That's another issue that we've got to deal with, because that just makes no sense, but that's the way the world works. So our bills stayed the same, but we also now have to pay for water the district bought so that you could consume it.
but wouldn't the money that we paid for our water consumption, wouldn't that go to Middleborough or not?
No, it went to us, and then we paid all the other bills we pay, including $236,000 for membranes. So if we pump water out of the ground, we have to pay for the electricity to pump 200 gallons a minute out of the ground.
Well, I understand.
So,
I just assumed that that Middleborough was getting paid along the way as we were.
no, that was actually never discussed how that was gonna work until the three parties, Town of Middleborough, Town of Carver, and the North Carver Water District set up meetings to discuss the amount that was sold to us and what would be the amount we pay for that water. Which, the only thing that was set way early in that process was that we were gonna get charged 1.5 times what a Middleborough resident would be charged. So there was a fee to that. But they also took some of that off. I mean, that was part of the negotiation. That's where they were very gracious to work with, like I said, in that regard. So we worked out a number that was fair for all parties, that they got their money, plus a thank you, and we paid what actually was not much more than what our water rate normally is. So that worked out okay. But it was, again, it was $156,000 that was never planned in budgeting over what we take in, over and above. Our big thing was to pay for the membranes. That was the big thing that we had to do when we did the budget for the year. And the other one just plain went under the radar, sadly, and that's on me. But it will still get paid. Okay. Anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. So back to the water operators report then. The sanitary survey, I think, was next on the agenda for that.
So the DEP conducted a sanitary survey on July 20th of the facility. And what they're looking at when they go out there is the plant itself, how it functions, the area where the wells are, make sure they're protected, there isn't any outside influence, it's not in the middle of a parking lot that could be susceptible to dripping oil from a car. They're looking at the history of what's gone on in the plant, the different ways that we try to manage the contaminants that come out of the raw water from the ground. Overall, they were very happy. The survey report was one of the shorter ones I've ever seen. There was, they are making the North Carver Water District conduct an emergency response training with key personnel from town to go over what they would do in an emergency if the town ever lost water. So this is already something that the district is very familiar with doing because it's happened. It just needs to be formalized in writing and submitted to the state. The other thing that came up during the survey was cyber security, which is a big hot topic right now within the EPA and the DEP. to assess any plants, any water treatment plants that have any kind of internet connection where someone could hack in. This is a big focus for anti-terrorism. So the EPA has a program where they will conduct an assessment for free. So that's actually happening
21st?
the 22nd.
22nd?
Yes, the 22nd, where we will be on site, and we will have a virtual meeting with the gentleman from the EPA I've been speaking with. He'll go through the whole system, assess any cybersecurity risks, and give us a report of recommendations on what to do to improve the security of the plant. The other things that the state recommended, they were recommendations, not mandates, what the state calls Table C items for different things to be done within the town. Recommended to have a leak detection survey. Recommended to develop a hydrant maintenance program. They are aware that the fire hydrants in town are not for fire suppression because of the pressure, but they do still recommend that you make sure they are functional. They recommend the storage tank inspection and cleaning once every 5 to 10 years. That's when a professional company that does just that comes out and drains the tank, inspects the inside of it, cleans it out, and gives us a report of any improvements that might need to be made, if there was any structural integrity deficiencies inside the tank. There were a few clerical things that we needed to correct with reports that we send to the state annually, more so around the purchase of water from Middleborough to North Carver. We didn't document in the appropriate column, we skipped one. We have to put the water that you used from Middleborough in the right column, not the left column. The computer system update, the computer that's in the plant is currently running on Windows 10. That is also part of the cybersecurity. That'll have to be upgraded like we talked about. The DEP would also like quarterly updates on the project status of that meter between North Carver and Middleborough.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. That was
And-
quarterly?
Yes,
Okay.
they would like quarterly updates. And then there were just a few things around the plant that they wanted us to take care of from an operational standpoint. Put some screening over some outside vents that were piped from the chemical room. There's a vent that goes outside to exhaust any of those chemical fumes for the safety of the operators. They just want a screen vent over it to make sure that no bugs or critters get in. Testing the emergency eye wash station. Relatively small items that they picked up on.
Yeah, and you have the information, just got a hold of Assistant Deputy Boyle, and he'll
Yes.
go up. Yep.
Yes, to schedule that when we're there, so we don't set off any fire alarms. And the master meter calibration, sorry, that they recommend that be done annually.
That, yeah, I was gonna discuss that on various meters. So I noticed that during the negotiations with Middleborough, there was like 3 completely different reads of water. And I noticed that, and I didn't notice until I was at this meeting with the, the Route 44 development people. So right now, historically, for the last couple of years, we've been 35 to 40,000 gallons a day. If you divide what that meter has been telling us, it's only about 28,000. So the numbers are way off. You take average of 9.5 million gallons and divide it by 365, it's like 28,000. Somewhere there's a huge difference in calculation.
And which meter is it that you're saying is
So,
different?
well,
from the master
let me
meter?
ask you this, because I'm
He's
thinking,
looking at the one coming out of the membrane going into the storage tank,
Okay.
not the one going.
well, let me, you know the report that goes to the, and again, acronyms are not my thing, but the report that goes to DEP annually that talks about water, how much water we used.
That's the ASR, the annual statistical report.
The last 5 years, I used that number in the annual statistical report to come up with my number to negotiate with Middleborough. But if we go by just the last year or two, saying that what goes through the plant, not including the last year, but prior, was about just under around 40,000 gallons, that's a lot more than what that report says, because if we're using that master meter consistently says it's around 9.5 million. So if you divide 9.5 million by 365, it's a lot less water going through that plant than what that daily log is saying. So some device is reading the water usage incorrectly, is I guess my point. And if someone wants to do that math, that's what I'm wondering, is it two different meters, if one is on the trains and one is on the,
Isn't either responsible for backwash,
No.
counting that twice?
right, so.
26,000.
Yeah, 26,000. If you're putting, and so, I guess my point is, Middleborough was coming up with like 14 million. Billing was coming up with like 14 point something million of going through the plant. Right, and then that report was saying 9.5, and I was like, well, 9.5, that must be the master meter. And I had asked about that when I was getting into that, and that's what I was like, well, I got this, and
Right.
for 5 years, it's saying 9.5, 9.7, 1 year was like 10.1 million gallons, but it came up to like 9.6 million gallons a year. So somewhere it's off quite a bit. And I'm thinking that that's whatever we're using for the SAR report, that's the one that's incorrect, because billing and your daily reports and what Middleborough was saying from there, they don't have a meter, but they have a meter on that trunk line that provides water, and their guesstimate was in that 14, 15 million range as well, so,
We can facilitate calibration of that master meter.
yeah. I think for sure, let's get that on the
Okay.
docket. Repair or replace it, I would think, so that we have that, so. That was something jogged my little pea brain about that with the meters. My issue, so. Anything for the operators?
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming
Sure.
tonight, all three of you, I appreciate it. Appreciate the update, the information, and we'll get together about talking about this stuff. Again, I'll follow up on my end. with
And
the,
then the distribution list that we started working on and the email blasts that I sent out
Yep.
last week, the more people's email addresses that we can get to add to that list, it will help with that public notification if there are any issues going forward.
What I'll do is, while you're here before we leave, so this is going to be for next billing. And the reason why I say next billing is that's when things would go out, we'd stuff stuff in, so email and other contact info for the customers to give us.
And perhaps some clarification for the customers. After I sent out the email blast, there were several people that emailed me back thanking us for the communication, and then others that had questions about reimbursement for bottled water, who could they talk to, any of
Yep,
that. So letting them know if there are any complaints about their water, if they have any questions about the quality, they can reach out to us. But when it comes to reimbursement for bottled water
Yep.
or anything else, that should be,
That goes to, yeah.
and if we could please take Mike Woolham's name off of the website as the operator of the
Yes,
plant.
yeah, I will, yeah. I think actually, I think the town administrator might have done that already, but I will
Okay.
follow up on that. Okay, good. Anything else?
I don't have anything, you guys? No?
Okay. Thank you again for your time, appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Wasn't too bad.
With that?
Wasn't too bad
Wasn't
tonight.
too bad. I will say I was expecting rotten fruit, but it was just that nice lady that showed.
Yeah. Well, I think, and she shares the sentiment of a lot of people and people in
Yes.
her neighborhood and stuff, so, but it was nice that she brought it the way she does it, so. Thank you again.
Yes, you're
Good night,
welcome,
folks.
thank you.
Okay. On with next agenda item, bills payable. You guys should have your bills in your packets if you'd like to review them. Today's the, what's the date, 14th? Yeah.
I'm just curious on the charge to North Carver Water District, if the 6250 is consistent with what has been the charge.
It is, yeah, that's the, so that 6250 is the contractual monthly.
Okay.
No, that said, I don't know what that gets us.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like so many hours a day. You know,
But it's the
get you.
same rate.
That's your
That's
monthly,
all I was
right,
concerned with,
right,
yeah.
but there are extras, like, so this,
Right.
this minder system.
Yep.
That is an extra that we.
Yeah, that being analytical testing.
Now, that said, the analytical, the extra analytical testing, Kim Blanchard has already said they're gonna pay for that.
Oh.
We're not paying that bill. Both the samples are nothing, when I say no, the samples, they're down there anyways, but the analytical, until it gets under control below that 0.3, they will take care of that because they should have been doing it more frequently right out of the gate.
Okay.
So that's the, sorry, you know,
Okay.
they were gracious about that. Let's see. So,
This Kim Blanchard, was that the Kim that was just here?
yes, yeah, she's the, other than the owners, she's the principal operator, you know, runs the show with them. So, and I figure always get the batches different, so I'm gonna, if I do it wrong again, my apologies, but batch one, I'm gonna call it. And this is the monthly amount that we pay small water system. So if I would entertain a motion to pay the bill for $6,250, and that's for the monthly fee from small water systems to operate the water plant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, Mo, sign that. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, so batch two is all the other bills payable, you know, phone, electric, office help, logistics, all that stuff. So the total amount for that is $6,693.10.
Give me that again.
$6,693.10.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if I could have a motion to pay that amount?
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, very good. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all approved, all in favor? All right. So I see Eric. Okay. Very good, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so that's item two. So Item 3, it came up during, we sort of did the public comment while we did item 1 on the agenda, but one of the things was reimbursement. People had been reaching out to Small Water. I've reached out, or people have reached out to me, I know they've reached out to Eric, I don't know, if anyone mentioned it to you?
nothing.
Okay. About reimbursement for bottled water and other costs associated with this, since we came online. I don't know how to approach this because I am also a customer. So I know
I'm
I
fine
need,
with the reimbursement as long as receipts are provided.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm gonna put on my customer hat. Reimbursement for bottled water, filters, I agree with. But I think something needs to be done across the board. Again, I don't know if I'm stepping on myself here as a commissioner, but also a customer. I know that I have a line I'm not supposed to be talking.
Yeah, it's a tough line to kind of stay on one side or the other, but yeah, there should be, we have to look at something as a board though, about, you know, taking a little bit of the burden that, off the homeowners.
I mean, I'll be honest, I mean, my water bill, because my wife and I, is not huge. I know other people have a much bigger burden. I think, just as a starter for conversation, I would recommend, we're going on 2 months now, that people really got brown water. I'm thinking that we need to maybe, next billing cycle, when it goes out, give a credit for
Right.
it, for
Yeah,
For the quarter.
to everybody, right? Yeah.
quarter, months, what,
Right, for the
again?
quarter anyway. I mean, this is, since it came back online, we started at the beginning of the quarter, correct?
June 1st.
June 1st.
Well, the quarter, they did, that's where it's like, it was the beginning of the quarter, but the meter readings, they're not always the same, so I think logistically, whatever the board decides, it would have to be like, next billing cycle, say, okay,
Right.
X amount of that billing cycle is gonna be credited. You know, because you can't go back, and you can only, like,
Yeah.
look at today and forward, so.
It's really not potable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's potable, but not really for consumption.
So you're not saying to credit the next billing cycle, you're saying announce the next billing cycle, credit for the following?
What I'm thinking is, so like, they did a meter reading in June 1st. But that was to split the Middleborough and Carver water
Right.
timeline. Say, okay, we owe Middleborough this, okay. Normally, July 1st is your water meter reading, but that actually didn't get done till later in July, early August. So I think it was actually early August, so it was late. So already you're behind the 8 ball with that. So those bills, like I got my water bill. So I'm thinking that people's water bill is usually pretty consistent, so the next billing cycle,
Will be an actual
we
consumption.
send the bill and say, but we are crediting you, whether it's this whole bill or a month or two, a percentage of it, you know,
Okay.
I guess.
Why don't we get with Sue from Finance on those numbers, just so we can kind of.
Okay, so do you want to address that next month and
Yeah.
come up?
Yeah,
All right, Sue's not around this week, I know that. so I
okay,
know
yeah,
that
so,
one-
but if we can get it before the next meeting.
Yeah, okay,
So we
all
can see
right.
what all the consumption is. in the
Well,
bills
they
then.
wouldn't have that. She wouldn't have that.
Tax, the collector's office.
What? The billing is so messed up. We have customers that, with bad meters, but they won't let us in to fix their meters, and this has been going on for a year. So then you try to correct that, like, well, you can't if you're talking about crediting people, like, it's like,
Yeah.
just, my head is gonna explode with this stuff.
If we can get just a rough estimate on what the quarterly revenue generation is from the meters.
Okay, all right, yeah, that we can do, yeah,
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 okay,
okay, all
that's
right. All right. Actually, this was supposed to be in our packet, and I didn't see it, because I think Amanda reached out to me. Bear with me.
I didn't see anything in there.
Oh, boy. It was supposed to be in our packet, and I didn't see it when I first looked at it. That was... Nope, wrong one. See, I always end up doing this. All right, let's look at this one here. Oh, I know what it was. We were supposed to have a form to sign. Maybe I have to stop up there and do it. And what that was, is it was expected revenue. It was like $48,000 from billing.
Okay.
So that's about right. So we usually take in like between, let's say, $45,000 and $50,000 in meter reads. That's our revenue coming in.
Okay.
And I got that from Amanda recently, if you want to get that.
Well, if we can get all the information for the next meeting and then make a
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah, okay, all right. Why don't we do that?
And then they get it out to us so we can
Yeah,
kind of review it.
all right. All right, so we got that. All right, this goes back to Jill. So, that said, I do have in our packet, this was from one customer. This was an email that was sent to Jill, because we did put out that if people submitted a receipt, we would reimburse them for bottled water. So this is from Nicole
For Sanity?
Firsaniti, thank you, at 32 Santana Way, and she provided receipts for $107.58. So I'd entertain a motion what to do with this reimbursement.
Make a motion to pay it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, all unanimous then to pay
Can you
that?
spell Nicole's name for me, last name?
Yes. That's the only one I have received, but I know that, Eric, you've spoken to people, I've spoken to
Yeah.
people, and I would imagine this will be going on for a while, people submitting
Right.
that. Okay. That's all I have on credits, reimbursements to customers, so we'll put that on next month's agenda. Okay, next month. Minutes, I looked through it when Susan
Yeah.
sent them out, so I didn't see, I thought everything was in line.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, all right, correspondence. Had correspondence in regard to phone calls, texts, emails, and Facebook Messenger about the water issues we've had ongoing since June 1st, and then more specifically, this past Monday. So there was a lot of correspondence with that. We have the one bill, or one reimbursement, and then I did have a correspondence, I don't think I mentioned it at a past meeting, a homeowner reached out to me, and they were getting their prices on regard to was it worth going on, paying their own way to get on the North Carver Water District, or a whole house filtration system. After talking to them, I think they went with the whole house filtration system.
Okay.
So, but that was a correspondence I had, that was an email I received a month or so ago. So, other than that, I don't have anything. Public comments, we did that. Board members' comments.
I think it was a good meeting today.
Yep. Okay.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I need to apologize to you guys because I'm not going to be able to finish out my term. When I ran for the office, we weren't really planning on moving, but situation changed and about a month ago, we decided to put our house up for sale and we sold it, so my last day in Carver is gonna be September 15th.
Okay.
So maybe one more meeting,
Okay.
maybe,
If
before the
you feel up,
15th.
if you don't
Oh,
mind
yeah,
doing
yeah.
another.
If it's before
okay.
the 15th, I'll be able to
That's up to you.
do one
of
more
course.
meeting,
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, congratulations.
Oh,
on the
thank you.
house.
Yes, congrats.
Thanks.
Really mean that. And thank you very much for stepping up and helping us out. We much
Yeah.
appreciated. So, yeah, if things change, let us know.
Okay, yeah.
We'll plan on another meeting with
Yeah.
you, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks.
So I made more than enough comments as usual, and I'm really getting self-conscious about doing that. But as I mentioned, I was at a meeting held by the developer on Route 44. In a roundabout way, it came to water. And as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, I was business polite but adamant. We do not have the water there, would be requiring the way things are today to provide water for fire suppression.
Right.
And that's what they were looking for. They're gonna have to figure out a way to help us help them, and that was my position with it.
Okay. Well, honest and upfront.
Yeah, I mean, they were going by information they had, that, oh, you got enough, like, no, we do not. We can if we had booster pumps and/or a hydrant, but they're going under the,
Okay.
they need, I guess, 500 gallons per minute is what you're required to flow through a hydrant. And I know there's different tiers of hydrants, so I don't know. They might get back to us, I don't know. But that was my big comment as far as that goes. And I will be attending the select board meeting tomorrow. One of the line item agendas is the ARPA funds, to approve it, discuss it, I should say, about the money to pay back the town of Middleborough. So I'll be bringing some of the information I've gathered today to that meeting and see what happens with that, so.
Okay.
And that's it, so. Next meeting.
You want to do the 11th, September 11th? That Monday before?
I can do that.
All right, let's do calendar, so, okay, yeah, so that would be, yeah, Monday the 11th, that works. That's the week after Labor Day?
Yep.
Okay. Monday. Oh, my daughter's birthday, September 11th, and my sister's. Okay. I don't think there's any topics that, pretty much talked about everything, so nothing else new. So I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, meeting adjourned.
Excellent. Good productive.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.